Welcome to the Kaiju Podcast. I'm Ralph.
I'm Jorge.
And today we're talking about The Blob.
1958.
Yeah. So,
you got a problem with that?
Yeah. What's it to you? Listen, I can say, like, this, they refer to it as a monster.
Yeah.
And it gets
He's
big enough. It gets big enough to devour a diner, so
yeah,
there's no problem.
No problem whatsoever.
No, I have zero problem with this. There's other movies that we've done where I've been like, maybe not. Just one, I guess, maybe, really. I think Matango is our kind of, since we did that one, we're kind of like...
Is our excuse that we can do whatever?
Yeah, like Matango and then Inframan. I feel like, Matango didn't have any, like, giant monsters. Inframan had, like, one, like a minute where he grew, but
yeah,
I don't care because I love this movie. It's one of my all-time favorites. This is one of the ones I watch every Halloween.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, and just because, I mean, I don't know if I mentioned this on our Giacchino episode, but I think I might have. But this movie scared me when I was a kid.
Oh,
like a lot. But I mean, this is one of like my mom's favorite movies. And I remember this movie and Close Encounters scaring me when I was a kid, just because the thought of the blob, like looking at it now, like the effects and stuff, it's not that scary, or right. I would say not scary at all. But the concept of something that can like slide under a door,
is good.
Slide through vents, yeah.
Well, I mean, when it the thing where it's on your arm and hurts, I think is good and scary. There's a pretty good, like, I thought how it took over the old guy at the beginning. And then there's a part where you see it's like the shape of his hand, but it's all gooey and growing and stuff. That was pretty good, I think.
Yeah. I think it's. I mean, when you're a kid and people are in pain and terrified, then it messes with you a little bit more. And I had to have been like maybe 4 or 5. I had to have been really young when I saw it. And it's what I like about the Blob itself. It's like it's so simple. Like as far as monsters go.
Yes.
It doesn't have any like special powers. We know where it came from. It comes from a meteorite. Yeah. And it's clear. It's like a clear little tiny ball. And then the old man pokes it with the stick. And as soon as it like starts devouring the man, it starts turning red with like, I'm assuming the blood and stuff. So it's kind of cool. And then later on when it's bigger, you see like little bits of stuff in it. Like it almost looks like raspberry jam with the seeds inside.
The guy on TCM thought it looked like cherry pie filling, like that can of cherry pie filling.
Yeah.
It's silicone.
Okay.
By the way, when I was doing a little looking up, there's the Blob actually still holds up. It still looks pretty good. There's a thing called Blob Fest.
Oh, really?
Every year in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. It's like a 3-day event, and I think the big culminating bit that they do there is they recreate all the panicked people running out of the movie theater at the Colonial Theater, which is where they shot that scene.
Yeah.
And it's basically it's red dye and silicone, and it's never dried out, and it's been kept in its original tub all this time.
Wow.
Yeah, and they sometimes pull it out and put it on display for Blobfest.
Oh.
Yeah. So July.
This sounds great.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, July this year. It's going to be July 12th through 14th.
I mean, I feel like. Yeah, that sounds great. I don't know what you would do for 3 days, but
yeah, I was like, wow. I
think I'm more intrigued by the small town coming together to do something.
Yeah, I think I'm wondering if it's like you don't need the 3-day pass.
Yeah, probably not.
It's like I think I can get it all done on that Saturday.
You probably find get a crocheted blob or something, or some sort
of.
Yeah,
but I love. Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's kind of like people do all kinds of if you look up Blobfest, there's people who do different kinds of all kinds of sci-fi cosplay for it and stuff like that. And it looks like fun.
Probably good food. Weird blob themed snacks.
That'd be great. Yeah, it's like a bunch of Jello.
You could do a Twinkie shaped like the diner and then covered in Jello.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah. It's just like a donut with the jelly on the outside.
Oh yeah. Great. Sounds awesome.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So so you watch this movie every Halloween?
Pretty much, yeah. For the
That's
last
great.
Maybe 10 years.
I definitely listen to the song every Halloween.
I love the song. Burt Bacharach.
The song I love so much. It was one guy singing. Mm-hmm. By the way, his name is, I got it somewhere in here, Bernie something.
It's not Burt Bacharach singing it?
No, Burt Bacharach helped write the song.
Oh, okay.
But it's basically Bernie. His name is Bernie Nee. Hopefully, it recorded 5 times. Or Bernie Cree. I'm just trying to read my notes.
He did 5 tracks.
He basically did. Yeah.
I love the opening credits. I like where it shows the sort of blobby lines kind of growing bigger and bigger and bigger as the credits go by. And then after all the credits are done in big letters, it flashes the blob. It's a really cool sequence. There's something about it that reminds me of almost like a Tarantino movie or something. The way the credits are just kind of go while there's animation behind it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's neat, and the song is great.
There's definitely also there. I mean, it might be the reverse that Tarantino movies remind you of the Blob. Basically, that might be more along the lines of what happened there, as far as making things look a certain way in those movies. But there's also the whole premise of the meteorite landing and cracking open, and the meteor shit, kind of from the first Creep Show. And then I was like, wait. Because in the second Creep Show, there's also the oil slick scene. So I was like, I bet that that must have been a pretty big influence in Stephen King's formative years watching.
Yeah, because it is a whole town coming together, and kind of like The Mist or shit. I don't know. I haven't seen too many Stephen King movies, but it seems like a lot of his stories involve a town coming together with a sheriff and the kids, and then
right, the whole it's so small towny in that small town fantasy,
a small town filled with middle-aged teenagers and old people.
Right.
You're either
was 27 when he played this teenager.
Yeah, he so you either have teenagers, old people, or police officers.
And an old guy.
Ages. Oh, the old guy. Okay, well, okay. Steve McQueen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said he was 27.
Yeah.
And he's playing a teenager. Yeah.
Right.
It's I remember watching.
That's classic, but that's also all the way up to 90210 the first time.
Uh-huh.
They're really old people playing teenagers.
Yeah.
Real TV teenagers didn't start being young.
But what cracked me up was
that's a newer thing.
What cracked me up was when they introduced Steve McQueen's dad, and he was a really old guy.
Yeah.
It made me laugh because he was comically old. This, I think, might be the only Steve McQueen movie I've seen.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Oh, wow.
He's in Magnificent Seven, correct?
Yeah.
I may have seen that. But I haven't seen, The Great Escape. Wait. I haven't seen Bullet.
Wait, is he Magnificent Seven?
Isn't he?
He's definitely in The Great Escape.
Maybe I'm thinking of... you know what I'm thinking of? James Coburn.
He was in Papillon.
No.
And Bullet. Bullet is, it's got one of those famous car chases of the whole thing.
Which I think I've seen the car chase, but I like him in this movie. When
I was on Alcatraz, they actually were going for an homage to that car chase in like the season finale of Alcatraz.
I remember that with what was the character? Is it Sarah? Was it her car?
Yeah.
Yeah. That show just popped up on CWC.
Yes, he is in Magnificent Seven. I just went and checked and confirmed.
I think I've seen that. But I like him a lot in this movie, and I like this movie a lot. I like that the kids are, the kids are kind of punks, and they have one friend that's a cop, and the rest of the cops don't, have a problem with the kids. There's a lot of conflict in there. Like it's such a simple story, but it's nice that the characters are kind of fleshed out, and it adds to the drama that no one believes the kids except the one cop.
Right. At first, like when Steve McQueen goes rushing by their car and they're like
backwards.
What? How do you beat us? Now we're gonna have to really race. Oh, yeah. And you're like, oh, these guys are dicks. But then there's like, oh wait, they're his friends.
Yeah.
It's the way it's like they're definitely on each other's side when it comes to the cops.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
The story is a lot like. Have you seen Killer Clowns from Outer Space?
Yeah, a long time ago when it was on HBO all the time.
It's like almost identical. And the fact that a meteor drops, but this time it's like a clown spaceship. And it's about punk kids who have a friend that's a cop and they don't believe that clowns are killing everybody. And it's like very similar.
Right.
So clearly those dudes, the Chiodo brothers or whoever made that, were inspired by this movie.
The old guy was in... Oh, was it them? I like it when I looked him up. He was in another one of the movies from our stuff. He was like an old drunk guy.
Oh, one of the drunk guys in them where they were like when they were in the hospital and they were trying to see if they were drunk, if their stories matched up.
Yeah. I think it was one of those guys.
I was gonna look up the female lead because she looked familiar, and I'm gonna look it up real quick. I'm gonna open up IMDb on this. Oh, nope, that's 1988.
Yeah, he played Jensen in them. The woman, I didn't recognize her as. So she's known for the Andy Griffith Show.
I didn't watch a lot of that. All right. Anyway, so it sucks that the kids aren't believed by the cops. Most of the cops. Dave seems to think that something is up, but the story's kind of far-fetched. But the thing that is, it's frustrating because obviously we are on the kids' side and we know that they've seen something because we've seen it too.
Right.
But then when they go to the doctor's place and they're visited by Mrs. Porter, like that whole scene just frustrates me. Where every question that the police have, Mrs. Porter says, gives like an alternate version where things can.
I think that's part. I think that was a thing that kind of essentially added to suspense, essentially.
Yeah.
From it, the whole. That she had an answer for everything, even though we already know the truth of what the situation is.
Yeah.
And she also has the funniest line in the thing when they say you can't touch anything because this place, we need to come and dust it for fingerprints. And she's like, can't I just dust around the fingerprints?
She's a shithead. I hate her. It makes it frustrating, and I mean that's the point. But I don't like her.
That made me like her.
I don't really have a ton of notes because I've seen this movie so many times. I really didn't know what to comment on. I did notice that across the street from the theater is a place called the Bootery, which made me laugh because I don't know what that means. It must just be a place for boots.
Yeah, it must be.
But it was like a really big place.
Young C. McQueen was pretty charming and funny, I thought.
Yeah, I liked him. He you could tell, and I might have seen this on a commentary or something, where he would try to kind of slump his back and kind of put his hands in his pockets to appear younger.
Yeah.
And I kept an eye on that, and it was kind of fun to watch him acting young.
Yeah, he's a good actor. It is cool to watch and see him like the seeds of who he's going to become, and like this is like one of the jobs on his way up. There's one of the great trivia things I found was that he smoked a lot.
Oh yeah.
And there is a shot in it where he is just holding his cigarette behind his back. And you see smoke come up from behind his shoulders.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. So this was before all those other movies. This is you said it was one of his first coming up? Yeah. I mean, I could, just based on this movie, I could see why he would go on to, be a movie star. He's real charming. He really kind of takes command of the movie, too. Like, every scene he's in, it's like, you kind of want to watch him.
Yeah. Like, okay, so old guy gets blobbed, and they take him to the doctor. The doctor is great. The doctor, to me, he reminded me of the old Adventures of Superman when George Reeves was Clark Kent.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
he basically that's his look, that classic old look in the thing. Apparently, that shot from the window. There's a part where they go back and they're trying to go back to the doc's place, and they can't get in. And Steve McQueen's like, I'm going to try to find a way around. But then he just kind of goes to this area where there's just some trees. Uh-huh. You don't see any relationship of the building or anything at all. This is like either maybe it was added later or something, some kind of reaction shot, or they just had to shoot it somewhere without the building in evidence. It almost looks like he's going to go take a whiz in the woods first. And he turns, but then there's that shot from the window where you see the dock, and he kind of like, he's like, his blinds are all, thing. And apparently that scene was longer and more horrifying, but they cut it because of that.
That's too bad.
There's that shot when the doc is on the phone when he's trying to call like a colleague of his, and through the mirror you see the old guy's blankets start going up and down.
I didn't notice. When the Blob shows up, when the doctor grabs a gun and he's shooting at the Blob, and it kind of does this cool thing where it like lights up from the inside. I'm assuming that's from the bullets, I guess. But I thought it was a kind of a cool effect. I think for the most part, all of the Blob effects are cool. There's a couple where it's definitely just the Blob in front of a photo, like a blown up photo of something.
Yeah, right.
Where you get like a flat shadow over, the diner or the movie theater. But I like the animations. There's some, I don't know if it's stop motion or something, or sped up film. There's definitely a couple
when they're moving
reverse shots.
They definitely do reverse shots, and I think they kind of like would try to like essentially like inflate it or something a little.
Yeah.
To kind of like make it expand a little because it kind of like blows up. The doc and his nurse, they try to attack the Blob when it's still little with trichloroacetic acid and then a gun. A lot of people like to point out that trichloroacetic acid is used to treat warts, including genital warts.
Oh.
And chemical peels. I found one place that mentions genital warts, and then when I saw another place mention genital warts, I was like, oh, apparently people think this is an important detail to know about this particular thing.
I was fine not knowing. I was just like,
yeah, I know.
It's like some sort of medicine-y thing or chemical that he feels.
The scene in the police station of the 3 cops, and each cop's got their own little personality. There's the one cop that his job is basically the night shift, and his whole bit is he plays chess. He has a secret chess game going on with another station. And the cop that we don't like, the one that doesn't believe the kids at all, there's a part where he tells Dave, he says, "You got to take up chess, Dave. Loosen up your gray matter a little."
Yeah, there's a lot of 50s speaking here.
Yeah, there is. When they come back to the doctor's office and the lights were out, and I was like, what? The Blob turned the lights out?
But that happens like everywhere. It happened in the supermarket as well. It must, I guess.
Oh, my favorite 50 speak in the movie is the one where they come upon the chunks of meteorite that are broken. Uh-huh. And the character known as Mooch.
Yeah.
He says, "You mean this little pebble's been out there hot rodding around the universe?"
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Oh, by the way, the creepy part is when those teenage boys are talking about that they're going to the midnight spook flicks.
Yeah. Because
there's some unprotected girls in the balcony.
Yeah.
Cut to next time we see them, they're in the balcony with their arms around these girls.
And then an old guy telling them to shut up.
There's funny old guys in this movie. What about the old guy who gets, when they run the siren, he puts on his helmet?
That's an air raid siren. He puts on his military helmet, but then he hears a fire truck and puts on his fire helmet. And then he switches his helmet. Yeah. Yeah, it was like a 30-second bit, and that guy, I don't know if he shows up ever again.
That is a small town. And I was like, it could have been just the old guy from the beginning again.
Yeah. What's funny, what cracks me up is when the kids are hot rodding at the beginning of the movie, and Steve passes up Mooch and Alan or whatever, and those guys, the other guys tell Steve that they could beat him in the drag race going backwards.
Right.
And so I assume that meant your car is so slow that my car can go backwards faster than yours could go forwards.
Uh-huh. But I'm sure that's what that meant.
But then they both drive backwards in the race.
Well, that was him, I don't know, somehow flipping it on that.
Yeah.
And also, it's like, I wasn't quite sure what his whole plan was, because he's looking at the light change, and it was somehow to get them through the other side of the intersection
Yeah. It was weird.
And then the cops showed up, so then we didn't that whole thing ended up just not happening anyway.
But it's a good thing the cops were confused too, because it let me know I wasn't alone.
Okay, so there's also the old man's dog who shows up, disappears, shows up, disappears. I was like, is this a continuity problem? They're like, oh, how do we deal with the fact that we don't have the dog in these middle scenes?
Yeah.
Or what? Because it wasn't enough there, but there's like, oh, that dog's gone again. Like they felt like they had to throw these lines in.
Yeah, and then there was a point where we thought the dog got eaten by the Blob.
Right.
And then we find out from the Mooch and the gang that they saw the dog running out of the supermarket, so the dog's okay.
Right.
Yeah. Danny.
Oh, Danny.
Danny's got problems. There's something with Danny that he's just, something's not right. I think he needs to loosen up some gray matter. But
Danny goes down to protect the family. Well, it's because she sneaks out.
Yeah.
And so Jane, she sneaks out, and so she's like, they're like, Danny. Danny catches her, so she's like, oh, and so Danny stands guard on the couch.
Yeah.
Later, so the Blob takes over. Danny does the classic movie trope where the Blob, he takes over the movie theater, and then everyone's running away from the Blob except Danny, who comes out of the bushes at the diner, and he starts shooting it with his cap gun.
Yeah.
Until he runs out of caps, and then he throws the gun!
That 10-second chunk of film may be the funniest thing in this movie. That kid, because he's wearing the onesie pajamas with the holster. But the thing is, he gets them in trouble. He ends up Steve and Jane stuck in the diner.
Right. Yeah. They got to go hide out in the diner, and the Blob just engulfs the diner.
Yeah.
The diner catches on fire.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, everyone's looking at the diner on fire, covered in blob, and they're like,
it's the police officer's fault because they try to electrocute. They try to electrocute the blob.
That went bust real fast.
Yeah,
like a lot of tension. It's like, it's got, and the guy, I guess that's how you're supposed to like that guy because he's a good shot. And he shoots the wire, it grazes the blob, and the blob doesn't even flinch. So they're like, all right, that didn't work.
Yeah, and
they're in there, and they're in the diner, and the smoke's coming in, and it's Steve and Jane and Danny and the owner of the diner. Just they're stuck, and then there's a part where they're like going, Danny, just go to sleep. It's like, oh, maybe you can sleep through smoke inhalation.
Yeah. But I mean, the fact that it catches on fire is ultimately helpful because it means they grabbed the fire extinguisher. And it was established a little bit early on, but they didn't really spell it out for you, is that the blob is
averse to cold.
Yes, because they were stuck in the meat locker.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool how that kind of ties up, and then Steve's able to figure it out. And then he tells Dave that he needs to go get more fire extinguishers, and so the old guys and the teenagers band together to go get more. So, they're able to set aside their difference of being old and being kids to help each other out.
Right.
For this common cause.
When they all come together. And the principal, he's I know where there's a lot of extinguishers at the school, and he goes to the school. He doesn't have his key, and he goes and he looks and he grabs a rock. And I was like, when was the hide key invented? Like he had little.
I didn't think about that.
But he just ends up breaking into the school, it's like, oh man, the principal.
It's like a reversal of roles.
He totally did that, and then they bring all the stuff. The solution is to then take it in like a helicopter and drop it in the Arctic.
Here's something weird that I noticed, and now that I'm thinking about it, it is even more weird. The movie theater has a banner on the front that says healthfully air conditioned, which is strange. I'm assuming that just means like it's a filtered air conditioner or something. I don't know what that means, but it must not be on at the Midnight Spook Show because the blob wouldn't want to be in there if it was air conditioned.
But I mean, I think it's extreme cold. I think the blob can handle.
Yeah.
I mean, it's out at night.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then the last line of this movie, Dave's talking to Steve about it being the military sending it up to the Arctic.
Yeah.
And it should be good there. And Steve says, yeah, as long as the Arctic stays cold, which is foreboding. Because we see on the news all the time now.
Oh, yeah.
Like
that's the I moment of present day.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, no.
We're ready for a remake now, right? Like that's how you start the remake, or not a remake, a sequel.
I think there is some stuff that's like old ice on the planet can release old germs, like prehistoric germs, possibly. I think that is something to. I don't think we're gonna get a blob, but that is definitely something.
I'm just looking for a sequel to the original Blob.
Oh, good luck. There is one.
But is it a sequel? I haven't seen the 88 one.
No, not the 88 one. There's the one that's called, I think it's called Beware the Blob.
Oh my gosh. I did. When was it made? Okay.
1972. Directed by Larry Hagman.
What?
Yeah.
So this is pre-Dallas. Beware the Blob. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How do I not know about that? I know about the 88 Blob. So who's it? Chuck Russell directed that?
Well, when we were talking about doing the Blob for this, I had remembered seeing the Blob, thinking it was the Blob, but it turned out I had seen Beware the Blob because I was like, is this the one that ends with a frozen blob? But spoiler alert. This is the one that ends with a frozen blob and the lights start melting.
No.
And you said, no, I don't remember that. And so then I was looking up that scene because that was the first time I ever saw a movie that ended with a question mark, not knowing that there's a whole other Blob before that ended with a question mark. I was like one of these afternoon Elvira shows, and she did like a bit where she reaches her hand into like a bowl of Jello, like it's the Blob. Yeah.
Oh man.
Ha 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 So in the credits for Beware the Blob, which obviously we're gonna have to get to at some point, there is one of the writers is Richard Clare, who basically is he has the story. He basically wrote. He's one of the guys who wrote the story, which was a chip off the old Blob.
Ah, I like that title.
So maybe it's a piece of Blob. So yeah, right. That thing about as long as the Arctic stays frozen. Also, there's some people who the Blob as an allegory for communism.
Okay.
Have you heard of this at all?
No.
The people involved with the Blob pretty much don't deny that wasn't ever part of it. But people were kind of like reading into the Blob, which is this big red menace.
Oh.
Okay. And you can't destroy it. All you can do is just try and freeze it.
Huh.
And also, and so like dropping it off in the Arctic, which is kind of like Siberia and stuff like that. There's all kinds of like different things. By the way, when I was like, when I was going down the rabbit hole of the Blob as communism, I came across, there's so many Wikipedias out there and so many modified Wikipedias out there. Like I was like, one point I had looked up and I came across there's a creationist Wikipedia where when you look up, I did it when I was Googling dinosaurs that had feathers. and they have whole articles about how those are like essentially red herrings or whatever. And then this is another one where where the Blob is communism led me to a Wikipedia that's just conservative Wikipedia.
Okay. With
all kinds of quote unquote conservative values. And all their articles are modified based on that. And it got a little dark scrolling through those pages. But, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it's just a blob. It doesn't mean anything.
It's just great. It's a formidable opponent.
Yeah, you can't shoot it. You can't go grab an axe. They try burning it with chemicals. And they try burning it with fire? And they try electrocuting it. Like, they try a lot.
Yeah, they shoot at it.
Yeah, it's cool. Now I'm interested in seeing Beware the Blob. Because now that you know that it just needs to be frozen, how long could it rampage for?
Premise says a technician brings a frozen specimen of the original Blob back from the North Pole. When his wife accidentally defrosts the thing, it terrorizes the populace, including the local hippies, kittens, and bowlers.
Oh no. Kittens.
It's because he had a dog in the first one.
I guess so. Well, we're gonna have to track that down.
Yeah.
I'll add it to the list. But yeah.
And I've never seen the 80s Blob.
Either have I. I hear it's good though.
Cool.
Or fun, at least. I think it does more like you get to see like more of the devouring and stuff. It's more
you know what? I may have seen like GIFs or something of it where it's like it's like you see like melted skeletons and stuff like that or something, don't you? Yeah, it's cool.
Cool.
I'm into that.
Me too. So since we watched the first one, that opens up for the rest of them. So
2 more. Yeah.
So if you have a problem with this episode,
skip it.
Yeah. You there's a couple more that you can skip. But I loved it. I love this movie, and I look forward to seeing the sequel. I didn't know existed. Cool. You want to talk about next episode?
Sure.
Ashiro Honda's Space Amoeba.
Yeah.
Excited to talk about Space Amoeba. And definitely I don't think anyone will have a problem with Space Amoeba as far as the term
it's
kaiju
right
goes.
up. Yeah, right.
So until then, you can go to kaijupod.com and we have our links to our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter and YouTube, and you'll be able to watch Space Amoeba over there. If not, it's on Amazon Prime, which is how I watched it. And that's it. Until next time, I'm going to go catch the Midnight Spook Fest.
Oh, cool. I'm just going to kind of like pick up some things and sniff them. Did you notice the amount of like they pick up the meteorite, they give it a sniff.
Mm-hmm.
Steve McQueen keeps sniffing the meteorite piece. He picks up like the rifle, he's sniffing the rifle. I was like, there's a lot of sniffing going on in this movie.
His sentences are heightened.
He's part Basset.
Yeah.
Beware of the blob, it creeps and leaps and glides and slides across the floor, right through the door and all around the wall. A splotch, a blotch, be careful of the blob. Beware of the blob, it creeps and leaps and glides and slides across the floor, right through the door and all around the wall. A splotch, a blotch, be careful of the blob. Beware of the blob, it creeps and leaps and glides and